Steve Nash
is some basketball player.
There's Steve Nash.
Oh, what a pass. Fumble the rebound. Nash on the move. Beautiful pass.
Hey, so if you were asked to name the most dominant point guards in the 21st century, who would make your list? Of course, modern-day fans will be quick to point at Steph Curry as the GOAT of point guards because of his lethal shooting, among other attributes. Oh, and they won't be wide off the mark too. But what if I told you there was one point guard who may just be better than the Golden State's baby-faced assassin? A point guard who not only dominated 21st century basketball, but can also make a claim as one of the very best in the history of the game. Well, folks, there is. And we are talking about none other than Captain Canada himself, Steve Nash. A legend of the game and a deserved Hall of Famer, Steve was one of the very best in the business, even though he had to sacrifice his shooting to bring his teammates into the game. As a selfless baller to the core, Nash was truly one of the most dynamic players the NBA has ever seen. And boy, was he a joy to watch. But what really made the veteran unique, and where does he really rank among other legendary point guards? Well, hello, and welcome back to Jam Junction, your one-stop junction for everything basketball. Today, we will be looking at the legend of the selfless icon and how Steve Nash dominated the game without having to shoot. But before we get this party started, remember to give this video a thumbs up and smash that subscribe icon for more awe-inspiring videos about your favorite legends. Ready? Here we go! Nash may have been that calm and collected player we all came to adore in the NBA. But then, his early life was nothing short of a roller coaster of nationalities and sports galore. Born on the 7th of February, 1974, in Johannesburg, South Africa, Stephen John Nash was part Irish because of his mother, and part English from his father's side. However, their relatively brief spell in Regina, Saskatchewan, meant he also had Canadian eligibility. But then, if you think his multiple citizenship is impressive, wait till you hear about his sports involvement. You see, Steve Nash was already what you call an ideal sportsman from a very young age. Heck, as an 8th grader, he already dabbled in soccer, ice hockey, rugby, lacrosse, and basketball. However, it was his love for basketball that prevailed, and boy, oh boy, what an excellent decision it turned out to be. Nash went to college in Santa Clara, where his then-coach Dick Davey took it upon himself to nurture the young talent. And well, it turned out to be a successful partnership to say the least. You see, in just his first season playing college basketball, the youngster led the Broncos to their first NCAA tournament after an excellent display in the WCC. At that point, you didn't even need the foresight to see that the boy could play. Now, even though more college basketball success became harder to come by in the following years, Nash remained one of the few shining lights for the Broncos, and even went on to claim his second Conference Player of the Year in 1996. Talk about a diamond in the rough, and this young baller would be your ideal example. But guess what? Regardless of how high the youngster's stocks climbed, he somehow managed to go unnoticed by pretty much the entire NBA community. Shocking, right? Well, as shocking as it may sound, it was true. And it even became more obvious when the youngster was overlooked in the 96 drafts until the Phoenix Suns eventually snapped him up as the 15th overall pick. Nash made his NBA debut that season for the Suns, but would go on to see little game time in his rookie season. Of course, he saw slightly more minutes in his second season, but the story wasn't much different, as he was forced to play second fiddle to stars like Kevin Johnson and Jason Kidd. But even then, even with the limited playing time he was allowed, the youngster didn't hesitate to show his potential on the court, with his three-point shooting particularly catching the eyes. However, his exploits at the Suns seemed to go under the radar as he remained largely underplayed and was eventually traded out to the Mavericks in 1998. If moments can really define a person's career, then Nash's move to the Mavericks was truly his defining moment. Of course, it was already obvious that he had the talent, but if what he needed was a stable environment to refine his raw talents, then that's exactly what he found in Dallas. He was finally getting the game time he deserved, and with every minute he spent on the court, the Phoenix Suns reject was turning out to be the chief cornerstone for his new franchise. In his first season here, he started all 40 of the games he had featured in and returned an average of 8 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game. Right then, the Maverick fans knew they had struck gold in this kid, but little did they know that these exploits, as outstanding as they seemed, were mere subtle signs of greater things to come. You see, after an injury-marred second season, Nash was pumped and ready to go for the 2000 to 2001 season, and it was exciting to see. His injury in the previous season had not deterred the point guard at all, and the addition of all-star Juwan Howard and a new billionaire owner meant the Mavericks had a cool, new look. Unsurprisingly, the Dallas Mavericks would go on a spree that saw them make the playoffs for the first time in a decade, and you could bet who their main man was. Steve was showing real maturity in his game, and it was rubbing off on the entire team. He wasn't just the star man, but he was also the catalyst that allowed others to find their rhythm too. Heck, it almost became a weakness for him. The fact that he cherished every opportunity to bring his teammates into the game meant he was shooting less than a typical point guard. But top players like this never have a weakness, do they? Well, they don't, and Nash was about to emphasize this in the next season. You see, despite his selflessness on the court, the Phenom would go on to record a career-high 18 points and 7.7 assists per game in the 01-02 season. His incredible form meant the Mavericks were becoming a formidable force to reckon with, and they even went ahead to secure back-to-back playoff appearances. Well, even though they eventually got knocked out again, there was just no escaping the fact that Nash was one of the absolute best in the league, and he was rightly rewarded with an all-star inclusion, his first of 8 inclusions, as it turned out. As far as the NBA is concerned, Steve Nash remains one of the most aesthetically pleasing players to have touched a basketball. He literally didn't have to try too much, but you just couldn't help but fall in love with the game a little more whenever you watched him play. Of course, at 6'3", Nash wasn't necessarily a big player, but make no mistake, this feller wasn't no sludge when it came to being physical. However, it was his intelligence that really set him apart. His antenna was on a different frequency, and he could read the game better than anyone else on the court. His positioning was impeccable, and his passing was completely out of this world. He could spot a needle in a haystack from a mile away. I mean, he knew exactly who was where, and he didn't need to waste any time weighing things up. He was also as unpredictable as they come, and you'll have an easier time solving the Rubik's Cube blindfolded than you would figuring out his next move. But in all of these, his best quality was one he strangely didn't wield nearly enough: his insane shooting. To the uninformed observer coming across Steve Nash's stats for the first time, it's usually a puzzle how a legendary shooting guard like Nash didn't score more than he did. But then, in his case, it was definitely because of the lack of trying. The superstar selflessly sacrificed this part of his game to help others around him. But then, whenever he did elect to shoot, you could so easily bet your bottom dollar on the outcome. Yes, he was that good. His 42.8 three-point conversion rate puts him up there among the very best in the business, and his 90.4% success from free throws places him second only to Curry in the all-time chart. Now, there certainly isn't much between prime Nash and invincibility, and you just can't help but feel that's exactly what he would have been if he had attempted more shots. Simply invincible. Well, we can talk about how good Steve Nash was with the Mavericks all day, but there's no denying the fact that his best days only came in his second stint with the Phoenix Suns. He was just unstoppable, and this time, there was no doubt that he belonged here. In his 8 seasons, he led the NBA for assists a jaw-dropping 5 times, while adding 6 All-Star inclusions to his previous 2. He also went on to clinch the NBA MVP award in back-to-back seasons between 2005 and 2006, solidifying his status as one of the greatest of all time. Unfortunately, for all his exploits in the NBA, Steve Nash didn't win any championships in his career. However, any doubt about his claim to fame was put to bed when he was inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame in 2018. Sure, you could search, but you may never again find another point guard as unique as the legendary Steve Nash. So there you have it, folks, the legend of the forgotten point guard. Do you believe Steve Nash was really a better point guard than Steph Curry? And where do you think he ranks among the all-time greats? Do let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe icon for more exciting videos like this one.